But, more than just the APIs, I think from a cybersecurity standpoint, the main leak is always the human.
Yeah, it's true, but mainly these days it's a concern around AI, concern around, what will the model do? How does it work?
I think about it. I think the number one question that I get is, are you going to train the models with my data? Will other people have access to that data? Welcome, fellow energy innovators, to another episode of Buzz and Beyond, the podcast exploring the technologies, people, and ideas shaping the future of energy and critical infrastructure. My name is Brandon Bozarth. I'm the Director of Solutions here at Buzz Solutions. And today I'm joined by Jon Day, our Senior Solutions Engineer. And we're going to be discussing cybersecurity, a very important topic in this day and age. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brandon. Good to be here.
Yeah, this is a timely conversation, Jon. And we get this a lot as solutions engineers. We're always the ones answering to the cybersecurity folks over at our utility customers. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about why this is important and some of the things that our utility customers should be looking for in a platform from a cybersecurity standpoint. What do you say?
Yeah, it's we do an awful lot of answering questions around AI best practices, a lot of IT best practices. Usually it's things we get a little bit confused with AI in our name. People think that we're a large language model, ChatGPT, Claude, something like that. We're really focused on image analysis, as so it's not threatening in the same way where, we're going to escape our sandbox like happened to ChatGPT a week ago and try and cheat and find answers to a test by hacking Hugging Face. It's nothing like that. So it's we get a lot of questions around AI. We get a lot of questions around standard IT. And I've done a presentation, I think it was a year ago. We went and we saw different conferences. We had it posted online. And it was really about the things to look for when you're looking at a tool like ours and things that we do. It's kind of self-fulfilling. But you want to look for things like TLS 1.2 or 1.3 for the data to be secure in transit. If you're uploading images to be analyzed like our tool does, then you want it to be as secure as a bank account interaction from a browser. You want the data to be stored with AES 256 encryption where it's hosted. And in our case, it's hosted, it's a software as a solution service. So we host it in Google Cloud, we host it in AWS, and we take advantage of, those technologies as best we can.
Yeah. Oh, great intro. I actually have a list of some of the most important questions that came from our customers and other folks in the field. And I'm wondering if you could maybe help them to answer some of these, help get ahead of those security questionnaires you and I are always filling out.
I'd be happy to.
So one of the things that our customers want to know is, how do we make a hosted SaaS environment secure? I mean, obviously we're using AWS or GCP, we're deploying where our customers request, but what are some of the things that we do as a platform to make sure that, we're meeting their environment needs?
You leverage the expertise of the platform, whether it's Google Cloud or AWS. They have different technologies. They have key management servers. They have firewall technologies, least privilege technologies, monitoring technologies. And you'd find that they have really an army of people working on it. They have experts in all kinds of different fields that you wouldn't have at your disposal if you're hosting things directly yourself, like back in the old days when you have a server room and an IT staff that actually, provided a solution to the internet. So with Google Cloud, there are things I mentioned. There's the KMS service to manage keys. There's best practices that you follow per cloud provider, but you're really leveraging their scale and their individual, army of engineers to support you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's why we're partners with folks like AWS, NVIDIA, and others. So that way we can bring them in as expertise when we're deploying our environment.
It works out. It's and there's Also, other things you can add to it. We have other, I won't get into the specs, but specific security tools that we employ within the cloud. You could layer on top of it, but you're starting off at a good place rather than building something from scratch, trying to become expert in things that you're not expert in. They have people that are, leaders of the field.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. And of course, we do have our own in-house cybersecurity and systems administration team. But we also use services like CrowdStrike to watch all of our services, including our cloud-hosted services. So it's kind of a multi-layered approach to make sure that, that things are secure.
It's also good that with something like a CrowdStrike, you're not reactive, you're monitoring. Things are moving pretty quickly with AI, with attackers using technologies. The pace of hacks, the pace of incidents is increasing. It was a week ago from where we're recording this that ChatGPT had a model that was under testing. It escaped its sandbox. And then innocently, it was taking a test. They were evaluating it for how well it could pass a test finding vulnerabilities. And it was so good at it, it decided to kind of cheat. It escaped its sandbox and then went to Hugging Face, which is a repository of models and technical tests and answers to tests. And it hacked in to find the answers to the test to help its evaluation. It's a funny kind of a logic, but that kind of thing is unexpected. And I believe Hugging Face noticed it. They could see something was happening. They're monitoring things, but you have to have that kind of speed to your reaction. You can't just patch things. You can't secure things. You can't monitor at a human level. You need to, in some ways, incorporate intelligence and AI in terms of defending yourself too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Luckily, our computer vision models don't have any thinking capabilities like that to escape the
And I've noticed
and do damage.
As you know, I do a lot of the requests for information and RFPs around security. And lately, I'm seeing more and more first attempts at evaluating AI. How do you use AI? But a lot of the questions default to how do you train your models? How do you, what kind of prompts do you allow? What are, assuming that you're talking about ChatGPT or Claude as opposed to a machine learning image analysis model, which is what we do. There's no conversing with it. You give it images, it makes analysis, lets you know what it found, but it's not going to be creative and go try and pass a test.
So, yeah, definitely. AI is a broad term. I mean, they're asking the right questions, so that's why we're here doing this. Hopefully, give a little knowledge back to the industry on what the difference is. But pivot a little bit on that. We do deal with imagery. It is secure, critical infrastructure images, and so it needs to be protected. And a lot of what we do through our integrations, like with Skydio Cloud or with ArcGIS, means that we move that imagery around. So what are some of the things that we do here at Buzz Solutions to make sure that when we are transferring that imagery from cloud to cloud, that it's secure?
There's a couple standards that we use, and it's kind of standard fare, but you want TLS for the transmission, TLS 1.2 or 1.3. I spoke about that in that presentation that I did a year ago. But that's important so that the information in flight is secured. It's encrypted. Once it lands where it's going to be at rest, you want to encrypt it with AES 256 standard encryption so that if anyone gets access to the files, they can't do anything with it. They need keys. And that's part of I mentioned the cloud systems have KMS, so they have their built-in key management. We don't support customer key management. We do it specifically and lock it down to the individual clouds. And then a lot of time we'll deal with APIs. So we have our own APIs. We can interact with APIs. Generally, you want to use tokens as opposed to a static key. And different uses, there's different times you might want to do a static key, but you want to use a more modern method if you can. And hopefully the APIs you're connected with support a key that has a built-in expiration date and other things that make it a better way to go.
Well, No, but I mean, and that's definitely part of the service we provide is when we're building these APIs, we're checking on the vendors and making sure that they're going to be compliant with our standards, and the standards that we're inheriting from our utility customers too. So it takes a little bit of the burden off the IT teams at the utility, and we're happy to do that to make sure things are secure. But more than just the APIs, I think from a cybersecurity standpoint, the main leak is always the human, right? I mean, that's the most dangerous part of giving access to this imagery and things on the web. So, what are some things that we do on the platform as far as like role-based access control and other things to make sure that the people accessing this imagery are the right people?
Yeah, it's true. You want to have, to be able to limit the access to different things within the system. You need roles, you need users and admins, and you need to be able to segregate information into a need to know area. So the distribution team need not see the transmission team, need not see the substation teams. Typically, their results or their projects, controlling who can create projects, just basically keeping it so that it's you're less vulnerable if a particular person gets hacked. And that's what you'll find now with AI in particular. The evil part of AI is it's getting very good at phishing, very good at tricking people into clicking something just out of annoyance. I've seen that. And it's important to train your staff. It's important to to be able to not just blame the person, but have limit how much they have access to. And so it's a need to know type of basis. So if something does happen, you're not going to lose everything. You might lose less information, say. And it's also training. No one likes the monthly training, or, we have internal training, and it's a kind of a groan, when you have to go and do it sometimes. But in retrospect, it's important to stay current and keep top of mind, just so that you're not, tricked or fooled into clicking something you shouldn't. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's very important. And so as solutions engineers, part of what we're always training our customers on is a little bit of that, hey, role-based access control, managing that within the system. But some of the other things we do to make sure that the right people are accessing the right things is, of course, supporting single sign-on, allowing the utilities themselves to manage who is going to be even allowed to log into the platform. And so I think, you've got to look at security holistically at all times, right? So it's a little bit of everything, everybody doing their part as well as the technology.
It's true. And you need to support things like multi-factor authentication, have something to prove who you are, all these things together. It's just layers to make it harder for a breach.
Yeah, definitely. And so we do support the multi-factor authentication as well as the single sign-on. So our customers have options there as far as how they secure the platform. Yeah. So, there's a lot of things that you can do. It's a little bit of technology, it's a little bit of training, but you know, just from your experience, what do you think the number one question that you get from utilities is about cybersecurity?
There's often explaining how it's secure in the cloud. That's new to some of the utilities still. The world's kind of gone there and beyond. But mainly these days, it's a concern around AI, concern around, what will the model do? How does it work? What does it do with my information? Because it's new, it's and the news is all about data centers and AI do silly things, but really the issue is in being hacked easily because you're using default passwords or managing things that you're not really good at managing. I would say too that so there's questions around that. There are benefits in the cloud in that you don't have to generally open up a firewall port or something like that to your internal resources. It's all handled externally. So people, though, they really want to know how is it, they need an attestation in terms of how are you securing our stuff in the cloud? How does the AI work? What's it doing with our data? And that comes back to NERC SIP and other things. There's penalties for these folks. So having assurance that there's not an issue there is important.
Yeah. When I think about it, I think the number one question that I get is Are you going to train the models with my data? Will other people have access to that data? And it's just another one of those things, kind of like the difference between an LLM and a computer vision model that people don't quite understand all the time. And so, like, what we like to explain is, one, of course, you can always opt out of model training. That's an important distinction that I think people need to look for when they're looking at an AI platform like this. But two, that it truly is safe to opt into that. We don't necessarily have a way like an LLM to ask, hey, show me such and such energy's data, and have it accidentally pull
Uh,
up some images. And really, the way that we train computer vision models is more the metadata of what we received off that imagery, not so much the off the actual imagery itself. And so, it's safe and secure. There's no data leakage like you would have with an LLM. So I think that's one of the things that I get asked quite a bit, that I have to explain to people is, it's like Vic says, it's like, if you read a book and then you write a report based on that book, you're not copying and pasting the information. That's a lot of the way that our computer vision models work, is we're training them in memory based off of what they've seen. We're not putting that data into some sort of database that would be searchable by the AI. So
yeah,
a
and
little bit different.
the utilities are also different too. The training that is done is more tuning, so that the model gets better for their version of the model over time. We're not merging a lot of that, just because every utility has different gear. They've got a different environment. They've different data capture, image capture methods. It's something that a universal training is less useful than a tuning of a common branch is what we normally do. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, John, that was a really interesting conversation. It's great talking to you as always. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I really appreciate your time and all your insights on cybersecurity.
hey, appreciate it. Great to be here as always, and thank you.
Wonderful. Well, if you'd like to learn more about Buzz Solutions or see Power AI in action, John and I are your team to show it off. Let's get a meeting on and do a demo. But until next time, thank you, industry leaders, for joining us, and let's keep pushing the industry forward and keep the conversation buzzing.